Hello YouTube, Aaron here again with my ugly face. For a couple of weeks I've been trying to make ISOs on Arch, and I've come to realise that the latest Arch kernels cause problems. A lot of distros are actually distributing this kernel, but they're not actually testing it. So there is problems with the file formats with this kernel. If they build their distros with this kernel and try and make an ISO of it and then try and install it, they're going to see the issues that occurred because of when the kernel being built, it is corrupt. So not a lot of people are actually testing this. I'm fully aware of this. This is the last three kernel versions have been causing the problems, and I've been sat there for 3 weeks. Obviously that's why I published my application, my Qt6 application in the first place, because I got rather annoyed. I sat there for nearly 2.5 weeks prepping it, ready to get it out. I was about 5 hours away from being able to post it as in a usable state. I mean, there was a lot to understand, and I've now made a console script which is written in Perl, Ruby and C++. Although really and truly the Perl side of it or the Ruby side of it could either just be Perl or Ruby, but I've decided to make it both. So some of the files are compiled Perl, some of them are Perl. I'm not going to be compiling the Ruby, and obviously the C++ has to be compiled for it to work. So last night I managed to get the old kernel files, and I've done a little bit of a test on Spitfire because I've been trying to get Spitfire out. In fact, I tried to get 3 ISOs out at one point, and I was basically sat on the computer for about 5 hours. I made about 3 different ISOs since it takes a bit of a while. I have got a new machine now, so on my projector there. Got this new one here, which is it's a Dell. It's pretty much like an office machine. It works well. I don't know how else to put it, if I can turn it. And then I've got my one that I normally use, which is here, and well, they just seem to work well both together, so I can do 2 things at once now, where my AMD machine broke, and kind of gutted really. Should have got a Rave cooler. I was just running a fan on top of it, which was specified for the CPU of course, but it was only just sitting on top with CPU paste. And I was fully aware that, you know, this could have caused problems somewhere down the road, but I didn't expect it to happen like it did, because it was working for months and months and months and months. I was playing games off of it, and here and there anyway, because I don't really like to game as much as I used to. Obviously I was editing, I was doing VMs off of it, and well, it just didn't work one day. But anyway, today I'm going to be showing some of the new things I've done with my Perl script. So last night I sat there for 2 hours and thought I'm going to reconstruct this in a way that it's a lot better to use. I'll show you what the current state of it is like, which to me, I just think it's a bit much. So if we go, well, this isn't the normal layout. If we go, see, I'm downloading Windows 11 in the background. So if that's going to put a lot of you off of the fact that I am a Linux user, I'm using ArchKD version 1.1.4, no, 1.14. I do have Mustang on this machine beside me, funnily enough, and a lot of people have downloaded that recently, and you know, with these Arch kernels and whatever else, it's obviously putting out a big fat sentence of saying, you know, I'm not stable, but it's not me. I don't like to build my own repos, down to the pure fact that, you know, we're running Arch. I don't want to be the middleman. In this case, really and truly, maybe I should have been, because the kernel is completely broken. One of the last 3 kernels. I can show the kernel that actually does work, and I've provided the files. So music, we've got this is pretty much the old layout, and I've reconstructed it in the opt folder. So normally this is what it would look like. If I open this in the console, we've got all of these different commands that you can type, and I just think this is rather how can I put it? It's out of proportion. It's no good, and I think reconstructing it will be so much better, so that I could only have options instead of commands. So we have option 1 as Arch, Ubuntu, and then Debian, and I've tested on Debian, so I know I can make bootable ISOs on Debian. I got onto Oracula, which would have been 2410, and I'm about one file away from making it boot, so it actually doesn't like to boot the grub. So grub doesn't boot, doesn't show a menu, so it won't boot into the ISO. KD Neon, I actually got that to boot, I'm pretty sure, although we could do that again. It's something that I'll work towards in the future. I'm not too sure how much of a video I'm going to be showing today, but basically we've got all my new scripts that I'm building. We've got the QEMU script, which is going to be Ruby, and that's not going to be compiled, of course. We've got the SquashFS creators for the different distributions. They've got to be different ways, basically. Perl scripts, which are basically the main thing that I just showed you, the entire menu, which is getting changed. We've got the DwarfFS creator, which is what I want to test. I need to test. We've got the ISO creator, so now I'm going to make the ISO creator its own script. So the SquashFS gets generated through one script, then the ISO creator is another that will generate an ISO from that SquashFS. And we've got our dependencies, which will basically just install all of the dependencies that are needed to run these scripts. So for Arch, because obviously this is in the Arch folder, we're going to need the calamaries, and we're going to need all of these for the mechanisms to work. And we've got calamaries files that I did. Where did I put them? I'll put them here for now, but really and truly these need to be reconstructed, so I might be doing that. I might as well do that here. I think we don't do that, we do this. Cut that. No, I think we'll do the individual ones. So cut that. Supported distros, got Debian, and we just do calamaries files. And what that does is it just makes things more tidier. I had problems in the past where I was deleting files that I wanted to keep. So if we do it like this, then we can put the files in individual files, and we ain't got, you know, tons of files in my face. I've got to know where to go to do all of this as well, which is kind of long, but it basically tidies it all up. We've got Debian there. This was KD Neon, which would have been Ubuntu. We've obviously done some tests on KD Neon, so that's what I've been using to make Oracula. Obviously Debian. So calamaries files. Of course, there's going to be a lot of calamaries files for this one setup. Same for Debian, because you've got all the different repos that need the specific calamaries files based on the Python setup. So calamaries works by the Python setup and the distribution files. And if you've got the wrong Python setup, calamaries won't work. So yeah, every distribution has its own setup for calamaries, and we've just done. Is this KD Neon what we're doing? I'm not too sure, because now we've got too many files to add. Oh, this is Ubuntu Oracula. So yeah, I think it would be more tidier to put that file in a file. So we've got KD Neon calamaries files, and we've got Ubuntu. So the new setup basically has one folder. We've got all the supported distros. We're going to have a kernel installer for Arch at the moment. And what that does, well, yeah, we've got Debian and Ubuntu as well, but I've not implemented it just yet, as it says. So the Arch kernels that currently work, I do need to test the Linux LTS. And I'm fully aware that the file that's actually in this folder here isn't the 52, so I'll be re-downloading that before I publish this. The Linux Zen kernel will work, the Linux kernel will work, and the Linux hardened kernel will work, because this version of the kernel is what works with my tool, and also Penguin's Eggs. And when you compile from Arch install, compile in when you install from Arch Install all of the packages. Just after the kernel is installed and the make init cpio-p is run to run the kernel against your newly set up hard drive, that's when you realise that there's a pipe error. And I've been sending tons and tons of emails to the Arch developers, and it's saying that, you know, I should send a bug report to an email, and I'm getting someone telling me that I need to set up an account on Arch Linux to send bug reports. And I said, but at the end of the day, that is not said on the Arch package website. So you got all these different kernels. This is obviously a new script. We can run it. We open this and we just type in Ruby, and I've changed the look of all of this. So if I was to go Arch and then I was to go Arch Linux, it comes up green and it tells you obviously you've chosen the standard Arch Linux kernel. Basically the current version that is supported, well, that's available, is this one, because I know that this one works. I don't want to be going down to older kernels because I did get other issues, and obviously KPM Core is a prime package for Calamize and the kernel, and it has to be the right version for it to work, otherwise the formats won't work. Rsync you got to have the right Python setup, the right KPM Core, the right Calamize and the right kernel. All of them play key aspects to the fact that, you know, Calamize is going to install your system. Rsync will cause an error if any of them are not correctly set up or they're the wrong version. So I've done a lot of tests, so of course this is my tool for it to work. It works specific ways, and I hold the key to that. Sailing the 7 seas, I hold the treasure. So I'm obviously doing a lot of research into making these functions better. Now the main application itself will now only have 3 options. So we're going to have Arch, we're going to have Ubuntu, and we're going to have Debian. When you select Arch, it's then going to have the individual scripts. And my plan is, with the kernel installer, that's the generatable files allows you to copy your VM lineage and generate an initramfs, since you have to generate an initramfs, otherwise it won't work. I'm pretty sure as well in the SquashFS mechanism, which I rebuilt last night, when you generate a initramfs, it's actually breaking the mechanism to installing with Calamize, so after when you go to reboot it will fail. So I'm going to be testing that soon, probably not in this video. This is just a touch up to what I'm actually doing to make things better before I post it on the Plane Store. Of course, as well, I'm going to make a Qt6 and a Qt5 application over the top of these files, so they run the specific things by buttons instead of using a console script, which really isn't a good way forward. I did have an Arch install script, so the way that I would have I tested things to make a script work from Arch install with minimal packages was with Western. So I installed all the dependencies for Calamize. I installed Western, Dolphin, Console, and we were sitting around about maybe 2 GB. I think it was 3 GB, and it all installs and works perfectly fine. I'm gonna have to figure out how I got Calamize to work with Western. Again, I'm pretty sure it was just Calamize. Just type in Calamize instead of sudo Calamize, and it will pop up Calamize like it would normally be if you was on a desktop environment. Being that Linux, obviously the philosophy for Linux never had a desktop environment, I will be building that, and that allows people to install, and then you could just build your own Arch Linux system. And of course, if you wanted to recompile the if you wanted to re-backup, not compile, sorry. If you wanted to re-backup the system with my tool, again, you'll be able to do so. And now that I'm talking about that, I've worked out that there's another dependency that is needed, which would have been a dependency that I thought fixed the Linux kernels, but clearly didn't. So I'm going to add that into the mix of these dependencies. But that will basically keep all of the files that are needed when you back up. So We want to, is it kernel modules hook. And we'll just go online, check that this file, this package is exactly what I'm naming it. We don't want to be causing no errors. This is a obviously very complex tool, so it's not easy for if you get one thing wrong, the whole thing won't work. So kernel modules hook. This is something that will allow you to keep the files that are needed for the process of creating a ISO. So there is a package, if I can find it, and it is in a specific location, which I'm going to have to find. It might be user lib. There's a dev file that is that needs to be in a specific location. It doesn't get copied during the mechanism because of the kernel not being. I can't remember what it was, but it's basically something to do with a kernel file, which I don't know where it is now. It's not good. Of course, this is my application script, whatever you want to call it, so I should know where this is. I thought it was in the ROM file. It's definitely a kernel file. It's called dev. If I type in something like dev, the file is like ZST or something. It's not in the prop folder. These files don't actually get generated. So it's a main kernel file that is used for generating the kernel when you go to back up your system. So I don't know if we're going to find that in this video, but udev system D structural sphinx. Probably not going to get into this now. I mean, if I do get the issue, then I know where it is. Once you've installed the dependencies anyway, you'll be able to back up the system every single time anyway. So, DST, I think it is a ZST file. It's got to be, yeah. So this is it. User lib modules. If we go there. Sorry, obviously it took me a minute to find out where it was. Lib, user lib modules. Then we've got this kernel here, and then we go to kernel and we go to drivers, and we go to firmware. Is it firmware? No. Firmware, memory, media. Is it media? No. Is it run? I think it's run. Well, if we type in dev in here, we're going to find the packages in this folder somewhere. pp dev voices dev. There is a folder called dev. That's probably where it is. This is where, see, I haven't actually got this file because it wasn't generated and copied correctly. Now, this won't break the system at all. It just means that you won't be able to back up your system because you need this file. It's a little known error that I've got. Once you obviously update your system and install a new kernel, this file will be generated again. I'm sorry that obviously I failed to put this into my ISOs. 13 Linux on Windows 11. Windows 11 is basically the same size as my systems at the moment. I want to work towards making my ISO smaller. I do believe the commands that I'm using to generate the ISOs are not compressing it. The squash FS is of course being generated, and compressed. So what I want to add into the mix of this, I want to add the fact that when you do generate I wanted to add it into the kernels, but it just, I might actually add it into the kernels. It makes more sense to do it that way. So when you select Arch, you're going to have the individual kernels that you can install, and then once you've installed these kernels, you're going to then want to edit the syslinux and the grub files. So the grub files will be here. In here, you're going to want to edit the ISO Linux config file to support this kernel. So it could be the Linux LTS, it could be the Linux hardened, the Linux Zen like I use myself. And of course I provide these kernels now, which was going to make my application a little bit bigger, but we've got all the different kernels that are supported, and they're about 100 megabyte, depending, well, they're around anything up to 100 megabyte. So obviously I'm going to have to download that again, and I was aware of that. So these files are all going to be tested. I know that the Linux Zen kernel works because I tested it last night on Spitfire. But yeah, basically, of course, instead of putting it in the generated files, I'm going to want to put it in the kernel installer. So when you install the kernel, you've got all the different options. I'm going to add a fifth option that will basically allow you to then edit the grub config and the syslinux config, because when you do generate a kernel, it's going to rename it to whatever's in the build folder. I'll be honest with you. So if we go here, whatever's in here right now is what it's going to name it to, and I'm going to change that as well. But basically, obviously, that will get generated as that name. This needs to be generated as its specific name, so I will be changing the code of the C++, of this script. So when I add the fifth option, obviously, the kernel. This is the Linux kernel installer written in Ruby. So we've got generatable files, which really would make more sense to be putting that into that. Maybe I'll put the generatable files into that Ruby script, and also at the same time have the option to edit the grub config file and the syslinux config file, and we have it all as one script instead of these two individual scripts, because they are basically pretty much the same thing. Obviously the kernel gets generated, it's going to search the paths, it's going to copy it, I'm pretty sure, probably under the name that it was. I can do some testing, of course. I've got the kernels. Yeah, so obviously this is just a little talk about what I'm going to be doing to make things better. I've only just woke up, got a coffee this side of me, and I'm improving the script basically. I'm not going to be doing it on camera, it's just something that I'm going to be talking about. But I'm about 2-3 days away from having at least Arch fully supported in a mechanism that I would say is appropriate for ease of use and ease of upgrading. I mean, it doesn't help the fact that I've now got all these different folders, whatever else, but I'm happy with that, because then I haven't got, in the main folder, I haven't got a ton of files sitting around. We don't need all of these different files. Of course, the depths for KD Neon is just the testing that I'm doing, so we've got all these different dependencies that you need to, depending on the distribution. So that file, of course, won't be in the application. The alias, I'm still doing some testing on that. This will open up the main file, which is obviously a Ruby file, and well, that's getting changed as well. So a lot of things are being updated, because I'm all about evolution. Moving forward, what can I do to make things better? I'm not just going to, I'm not just going to make something and sit on it for years upon years upon years. From 2016 to now 2024, my script is exactly the same. I'm going to try and revolutionise my script to make it even better. I might add a new backend that's not even a new function that's not even into it. I might change the UI, I might change my language. I'm all about moving forward. Of course, the reason I've gone for Ruby and the reason I've gone for Perl is because I've gone to put my slogan as sailing the 7 seas. Now, of course, Ruby and Perl, it just makes sense. So C++, Ruby and Perl is what I'm going to be writing my languages in. So what I just said there would have been, what I'm saying now was basically going to contradict the fact that I just said I might change my language, but I'm going to keep my language as it is. Well, all the functions and the way that it works, I might change at some point because I'm all about making things faster, better and easier to use, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So of course, we've now got a supported distros file, we've got the kernel installer, you've got the QEMU. So I want to keep that as a Ruby file that's not compiled. So say if someone wanted to edit this command that's being used that actually works, of course, I've tested this. You input an ISO and it boots a VM that you can test your ISOs on. Of course, then the options available. I'm gonna basically leave this video as this. There's not much to show. I've got a lot of work to do. The best work is done silently. You know, I could be doing the work on camera, but I'm not going to be doing as much work as I would normally be doing if I'd just done it off camera, because I'll be able to focus a bit more. I haven't got two things to do at once. Of course, got a lot of things to be doing at once, but I haven't got a focus on talking about what I'm doing now. So I've got to think that extra, that little bit extra, instead of just getting down to work and getting it done. It might be done by today, and if I'm doing it on camera, it might be done next week. So that will obviously slow the process down of the things. I don't want to be showing the scripts of what I'm using to build these ISOs, since I'm making this closed source, and closed source in a way of, like, of course, my binary files are compiled. So you can obviously sit there, and this is something that I've found on KDE now 6.2. When you actually open the console, like I would normally do with my own service menu, if I open the Dolphin, as root, and then if I went into here and wanted to use Kate, say, it's not even popping up now, funny enough. So say if I wanted to, this just doesn't help because I've obviously got this open. If I wanted to edit this file now with Kate, oh, that doesn't help. See, this is something new to the Plasma 6.2. Is it a bug or is it a feature? That's what I'm still trying to work out myself. But basically, when I go to edit this file with Kate, under sudo, yeah, if I obviously get the menu up, the action menu that pops up, and obviously you select an application. Normally I just type in Kate and it just pops straight up, but now for some reason it don't even want to run Kate. I have to put in /user/bin/Kate, because that's where Kate is actually on the system. And I don't know if this is a feature or a bug, but it really is agitating because Mustang likes to work that way. You can't open text documents or Ruby scripts or C++ scripts as sudo the normal way. So if I was to open this now and this was a root locked file, when I go to save it, it's going to allow me to save it because I'm on the original KDE Arch, basically. No, because I've got system D. Now with OpenRC, and the way it works is you have, well, on Arch anyway, I can't remember if it's the same for Debian, even though I do support Debian. I've got an OpenRC Debian, and I was trying to do Ubuntu at one point, but on Arch, on my Mustang Artix respin, I have to open up the Dolphin as root. So I come here, obviously with my own service menu. I'd open Dolphin as root, and then I'd open the file as sudo this way, because it won't work the way that I just told you. So if I come off of this and open this and open the file that is root, like this, it's going to allow me to save on this, but it won't let me save on Mustang. I've got Mustang in the background just over there. So, of course, now they're making it a lot harder. So if I was actually to go like this, I don't know if many of you lot know this, but if I actually went like this, it's not going to allow me to open it. It will not let me open it. I'm pretty sure it's just going to say, here we go, you can't open it, it's pseudo elevated and basically a big F off, you know. And this is just not, come on, I need to edit my files. If it's root locked, then it's root locked. I know it's root locked. Let me enter my password and edit the file. Of course they've done this for security reasons or whatever else, they've got their own reasons, but it just doesn't help the fact that they've now changed a feature or implemented a bug, you know, somewhere down the line. Obviously the bug would have been non-intentional. In my eyes, I think it's a feature, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, that's it. I've got nothing left to say. I hope that you're enjoying this video, whatever time it is when you're watching this video, and I hope to get this application out there soon for people, for those that want to use it to create Arch ISOs, Debian ISOs, and Ubuntu will be supported somewhere down the line when I'm doing some tests. And I wouldn't mind making like a minimal Arch ISO for those that want to build their own Arch ISOs. Hopefully the install mechanism that I've got after installing the Calamize gets fixed, so I'm going to be testing that next. And then we don't need to generate the init RAM FS after installing Calamize, and people can just make distributions if they really want it then. And add a script to delete my files after Calamize is installed, which is pretty easy. I mean, you go into the Calamize files and just edit it, and all the Calamize files are basically here, so you can edit the Calamize, is it user share or user lib? You can edit the modules to the Calamize here, so like the ending script, you can add your own little piece of the to Calamize. So say like whatever this is doing, I don't know. But imagine this is basically the finishing script, and it says reboot. Instead of reboot, you can run a shush file that has the reboot at the end of it, and it has a number of scripts to delete the files from specific locations, such as my ISO creator script. And that's all out of free will if you really wanted to delete my ISO script. The main purpose of this is not to make distributions. I really can't express that any... I can't express that any better. This is just for making backups, but the use of making a distribution is there. I'm not going to make it any easier making a distribution, and obviously not going to focus on that, but the purpose it can be used for obviously is to make a backup of your system, although it can be used to make a distribution, which is what I do anyway. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make a distribution. Yes, it's a respin distribution, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, I've got a new slogan. It's called Rock Solid and Forked, because everything I'm doing apart from my ISO, some of my applications such as my ISO script is forked. So obviously my ISO script is my own code, my service menus is my own code. All of these things could be closed source within a hot minute. I can turn these into binary files and make it closed source within a hot minute, because these are my scripts. I built them from the get-go. You know, I didn't go to someone else's project and fork it. You know, of course, Penguin's Eggs, I had to get some knowledge off of Penguin's Eggs, but my scripts are written in my way. If you go download Penguin's Eggs and try and make an ISO, he overlays the Perio, my good friend Perio, who I do help as well. I do help Perio. He actually he overlays the system. So he puts, I'm going to talk about this real quick and then I'll end the video, but he basically overlays your system into a folder with overlay FS. So all of your system files and everything get put into a folder layout, and then he creates a Squash FS of that folder layout. Yeah? I do not overlay no systems. I just generate complete copy of your system in a specific way so that it will work into a folder, and then generate a SquashFS from that, and put that SquashFS in the specific place it needs to be within a ISO layout for it to then boot the ISO. And of course the install is, it's not rocket science. It's all down to the mechanism and the pieces to the puzzle. You need to know how these different functions work for it to work. I've done 2.5 months, 3 months, 4 months studying to get where I am now. I was a complete noob 2 years ago. This month, 2 years ago, I was a complete noob. I never even used Linux in my life. I was a Windows user, which is why I do represent Chris Titus Tech. In fact, I used his tool for many months. Even though before I used his tool, the tools that he's some of the tools that he's using in his tool, the WinUtils tool, I actually used to use separately. So we had like WinShutUp was something I used to use, and Windows 8 sort of thing, Windows 10 when it first came out, because sorry, I don't know why I said Windows 8. Windows 10. So I used to do the betas for Windows 10. I used to do the betas for Windows 11. I was testing it before it even come out. So I knew about the features and what it was going to look like and everything way before pretty much anyone else. If you was testing the devs, the betas, then you would know. I can't say who I don't know who's used the beta or whatever, but I was one of them for both of them. Obviously the Windows 10 and 11. I had Windows ShutUp on there. I obviously been using Windows 11 on this PC at one point, which is a very old PC. I had to use different things to install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware, which is obviously now they're making it a lot harder for that. And they've got Geek uninstalled to uninstall Edge, so I don't know how he's uninstalling Edge, but I use Geek uninstall. I use dcontrol from sordom.org, which allows you to get rid of the Defender, Microsoft Defender antivirus, which is a very RAM intensive application. It uses a lot of RAM, just like Edge does in the background. You could be running your system and not even have Edge open, and Edge is running in the background as a process, and it's using 1.5 gigabyte or 1 gigabyte. It all depends on your system and how you've got it all set up, but it uses around about 1 gigabyte in the background without it even being open. So when you remove that, that's taking away them resources, which it helped for this little puppy here. She's old. She's a Dell Latitude E6400. I got this off of an old lady, and I put Windows 11 on her, and I had obviously a lot of problems at the start, because obviously Windows 11 can be quite resourceful in a way. It's taking a lot of resources from your CPU and your RAM. But when I removed Edge and the Microsoft antivirus malware service, anti-malware, Microsoft anti-malware, let's get this right, because I'll get confused with this myself. Microsoft anti-malware execution service, anti-malware service. So this, just like it says here, it uses a high CPU usage. Now I can say for a fact, when I put Windows 11 on here and got rid of Microsoft anti-malware service and Edge, I was able to use this like it was Windows 11, 10. Like it had Windows 10 on it, like it had Windows 7, like it had Windows 8. It just run like a normal operating system. But with them two files, this here was like a paper umbrella in the rain. You might as well throw it in the bin. But she's a good backup. I don't really use her as I used to use her, and she's been good. She runs she runs KDE Neon perfectly well on her. In fact, I think she's even got KDE Neon on her. Let's have a look, shall we? I'm pretty sure she's got KDE Neon on her. I've got a battery issue on her. She does work, so I don't know how else to do this. Battery's dead basically. That's not an issue. Hit F1 to continue. And we just showed that KDE Neon is installed on this system, and it just works fine. So I'm yet to test the latest KDE Neon on here. I did install it, the 2410 version, is it? No, 04, sorry, since they like to update every 2 years there. Just they don't like to sit on their arse for too long, but they've gone for 2410. So we've got KD Neon, I don't know, you just see the Plymouth and whatever else. Boot, but we've got KD Neon. I basically installed this as a separate operating system. If anything, you know, because I do a lot of testing, if my files get wiped or something and I need to download an ISO and put it on a USB, I've got my phone and this at the same time. She's not good for work. She's no good for working, but it's just good for daily use, I guess, in certain circumstances. Anyway, enough talking for today. I just thought I'd just put another video out, what I'm doing, why I haven't been updating any ISOs. Obviously I've been agitated the fact I couldn't get Spitfire out. I do have different versions of my operating system. So I've got Spitfire, I've got Mustang, I've got Arch from Arch install, and I've got the Arch KD Dev, which I uploaded at ISO, and obviously I was having this issue. I just built the KD Dev I built the Arch Dev setup ISO again and had these issues, but then last night I downloaded all the kernel files. So moving forward, I'm going to be obviously getting these files out at some point. I want to be focused on ISO Creator first and get it into a state where people can use it for their own general purposes as well. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I'm going to say this again, and I hope you have a good night or day, whatever time it is, if you are watching this video. And it's a bye from me, Aaron.